What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Nighttime. What time is it? 10:22 in the PM. So I got some tea here. This is red rose tea. I love it. It tastes so good. Let it cool down a little bit because I made it with fire. I was thinking earlier, I was a big fan of basketball years ago. For about 10 years, I couldn't get enough basketball. Just, whenever the season ended, I was, happy if my team won the championship, but I was also sad that there were no more games coming up. And I remember one summer, I had a basketball, and I was playing with it with a bunch of kids. And I said to them, it's a little bit flat. Let me put some air in it. So I got on my bike, had a chopper bike, Apollo 5 speed, made by Ross. Got on my bike and shifting gears, went all the way to the Mobil gas station. And they had one of those old-fashioned air pumps outside. And I had a pin that you put into the basketball and then you pump air. So, get off my bike. I go where this pump was. I was there all the time putting air in my tires, So I started filling up. I stopped, followed the directions, make sure I didn't go over. I bounced it around and I said, well, if that much air gives you that much bounce, then I'm going to put a little bit more, give it a little bit extra bounce. So I started filling it and filling it and filling it. You can hear the bell, ding, 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 ding. And I said, okay, that's enough. So I put pressure with my left hand as I pulled out the needle, the pin, and the ball exploded from the pressure. Ball exploded, and it hit me on my body so hard that it felt like I was being whipped by leather, like a leather strap. Just exploded on me in pieces, and it was so painful that I ran a couple of 100 feet just to be able to get the pain out of me. It was kind of like that cartoon, the Flintstones, where, what was it, the lottery ticket? Barney had it, or Fred thought Barney had it. I don't know, something happened. He wanted the lottery ticket. He crawled in to Barney's house, and I think he stumped his toe somewhere, and he wanted to scream in Barney's house, but he didn't want to wake everybody up. So he ran up the hill and screamed up there. Well, that's how I felt. I ran just to get the pain out of me. And then I learned a lesson. The lesson is that when they recommend X amount of pounds of air in the ball or in your tire, don't go over. Follow the directions, because they've done experiments and they know how much pressure is necessary. So I've never done that ever since I learned a lesson. So good. But, life is full of mistakes like that. Oh man, this tea is delicious. I know I said it the other day, but when I go to the desert and I see all these shrubs growing, I always wonder if I can dry them out, have them hang somewhere, and then grab them, put them in a strainer, get some hot water going, put it inside the hot water, whatever the shrub would be, and then taste it, see if it's any good. That is really, really good. I think I was like 10 years old when that happened. Yeah, in those days, like somebody crashed. Or they went over something. But in those days, I remember the summer was long, 3 months, but they gave you summer reading. At least where I went, they would give you summer reading. Which, you're on break. If you're on break, you're on break. Why they give me books to read? Plus, I've liked reading back then. I like it now, but I want to read what I want to read. Like maybe a James Joyce. poem or a book. Just the right size. You don't want it too big. Yeah. When I was in the first grade, I had a bunch of friends there that we were really close, but two that I was extra close with. Those were my hanging around friends that we would hang around at the railroad tracks. But from those two, the one I was extra close with. So one day, the teacher said to us that the news was going to come to our classroom and film us and show it on the news. I don't know for what reason, but anyway, so she said, what's going to happen is Channel 7 is going to come in, and I want y'all, to gather around me in the front here, and I want to be reading a book to you. And I said, okay. So we did that, and the news came in with its cameras. And when I went home, I told my parents, we got to watch the news tonight. I'm going to be on television. So we were watching it, and there I was on television, but I forget what it was about. I don't even think they told us. Not that I forgot. I don't think they mentioned it. That was such a good school in terms of exploring. That school was built in the late 1800s, I think the 1880s, all brick. And it was a good sized school. I'd get there in the morning, and I was always like a half hour early, and we would play Relivio. Nobody even knows what Relivio is now. Relivio is you have a goose, which is your base, your home base, and then you pick 5, 6, 7 kids on your team, and the other team has an equal amount. And so whoever's first, they're on base, but they have to scatter. The other side runs after you. They capture you, and they say 1, 2, 3, caught. There are no breaksies, and there's a jail somewhere on the property, and they put you in there, and somebody guards it. But if one of your teammates on your side can bypass everybody on the other side without getting caught and run where you are, they can yell out Relivio, and everybody's free again. So we played that a lot. And then they'd call us in like 8 o'clock, first grade, they'd start. And I loved that school. I used to explore every corner of that school. I used to explore. Such a fun school. So, we had a nice teacher. First grade. Very friendly lady. Now, she was young back then, but now, who knows? I remember they would say every Friday she would have a piece of paper out, and she would say, I want you to raise your hand if you want chocolate milk next week for lunch. And I always wanted chocolate milk. I'd raise my hand, and then she would write down the amount of chocolate milk cartons to bring up, and then the white and all that. So every day at around lunchtime, we didn't go in first grade to the cafeteria. We stayed in class and ate there. This kid would come up with a crate. He was like a 5th grader. We thought he was like an old man. And he would bring the crate and leave it in the front of the class. And then some other kid from our class would pass out the milk. And I'd sit at my desk there. And I had different things to eat. I had my $6 million man lunchbox. And prior to that, I had the Bruins. And I would open it up with my little, plastic thermos. It always had a smell, associated with school. And I would start eating. It's different sandwiches. Could have been roast beef. It could have been ham, whatever. My buddy, my friend, who was right, across from me, next to me, he had the same thing every single day. He would open up his lunchbox and he would take out his sandwich, and then he had a bag of chips, like Wise, those with the owl. He would open it up and he would put the chips on top of his bologna sandwich. It was always bologna. And then he'd put the bread on, he'd eat it like that, and he'd watch me and I'd watch him, and it was like one of those things. So right behind me were these two girls, and they were second graders. They were the only second graders in my class. I don't know why they stuck them in there. And they were always doing something different. So the teacher would come and help them with something, and they were second graders, and they would do their thing, and then I would do my thing. I had my nice little math book in the first grade, nice numbers. And it had a smell to it, like antique shop smell. And then one time, I wrote out the alphabet. Now, I'm in first grade. If I want to do something, ridiculous, I can do it. So I wrote out the alphabet on the back, practicing, and all my letters I made with faces. They had eyes, nose, smile. And the girl behind me, her name was Emily, she went and complained, told the teacher, he's drawing faces on his letters. And the teacher came over and said, it's okay. So what? It's okay. So that's what I said. I said, it's okay. What's the problem? Why'd you go tell her? So anyway, we had them there for a while, for the whole year. And then we had these two twins that were in my class. And a lady, I think she came from the Science Museum. A lady from the Science Museum came, and she had a microscope. And she was explaining, the germ theory to us. And she said, can I have a volunteer? I want to get some saliva out of your mouth and put it on a slide, and then you could see what's inside your mouth. And so one of the twins raised his hand, he's like, I'll do it. So he went up there, and she took a Q-tip swab and then put it onto the slide, put it underneath this powerful microscope, and then called us up one by one to see all these disgusting things in his mouth. And I still remember that, so every time, I would see him for years after that, he's still around, I would think how disgusting his mouth was with all those things inside there. I know everybody's got them. Unless you use Listerine. So that was one thing we did that was fun. And then I remember we had these heaters in the back, the water heaters, they're made out of cast iron, and they would get extremely hot, which I don't even know how they allowed them. A first grader would fall into it, they'd burn their head. So anyway, me and my friend, we would get these fat crayons that the school provided, and we would put them on top of this hot radiator in the wintertime, and then you would get this smell. It was like, like wax melting. It was crayons, and they would drip on the floor and get cold, and we would go and put multiple colors, and we'd get these things that looked like little volcanoes down on the floor. And I was thinking, even back then, how dumb are these teachers that they can't smell that and immediately say, hey, who's putting crayons on the radiator? But we did that throughout the year. The whole system was full of lines of different colors from our crayons melting. And that year, the last day of school, they brought in all these boxes of books, and my teacher said, hey, whoever wants a book, grab it and take it home with you. It's the last day of school. Going home to his mom. So nobody grabbed the book. I took them all home. And they were all science books about the molecule and the atom and all that. Obviously, they were not first grade books. They were probably like fifth grader books. But I took them home, and for years I studied them. Oh, it's so good. I feel like making another cup. But that was a good year. We had a very good teacher. Good personality. Second grade was a good teacher as well. And me and my friend, I had a friend named Tony. We continued on together, second grade. And we had a lunch monitor, because we would eat lunch in the classroom again in the second grade. And her name was Mrs. Kakanda. me and my friend would look at each other and say, what kind of name is that? So we would change it up a little bit. We would raise our hand. We never had a question, but we just wanted to say Skatanda. So we would say, oh, Mrs. Skatanda, Skatanda. And other kids in the class would giggle, and me and my friend would, my friend next to me, who was like 2 rows over, he would do it too. He'd call her Skatanda. And not one time did she say, hey, FYI, my name is not Skatanda, it's Kakanda. Never said it. And that summer, so first grade, then we go, summer break. All right. So my friend went to Hawaii. And when he came back, the teacher said to him, hey, Tony, I heard you went to Hawaii. Can you show us something? And he was able to do the, the dance they do there when they do the luau. So he did that. And yeah, me and him were very good friends, but we lost touch over time. Yeah, and she was a good teacher. She was an older lady. And I remember one time this girl disappeared for about 15 minutes. And then the teacher saw her coming back into the classroom from the hallway, and she said to her, hey, where'd you go? And she goes, I went to the bathroom. And teacher said, you're supposed to ask me before you go to the bathroom. And the girl said to her, oh, I did ask you, and you said yes. And my teacher said, oh, she goes, I must have been talking to someone else and said yes to them, and you thought I said yes to you. So all of a sudden it worked out and everything was fine. So I kept that in mind. So 3rd grade, I had a pain in the ass teacher. Not a good teacher, not a good personality, very aggressive, didn't know how to deal with kids. So I decided I was going to leave the class at one point on that day and go use the bathroom without asking. So I went down, did my thing, came back up. She was with a bunch of kids there talking to them. Came in, she saw me, and she said, hey, where'd you go? And I said, I went to the bathroom. And she's like, you have to ask me before you go, right? And I said, I did ask you, and you said yes. I thought she was going to say, oh, I must have been talking to somebody else when I said yes, I was talking to them. I said yes to them, not to you. You heard yes, but it wasn't for you. I said that to her, you said yes, and she's like, no, I didn't. She said, I did not say yes. And I go, why did that work last year when that girl tried it, but this year when I try it, they have doubts. Not even doubts, they just flat out said, no, you didn't do that. You didn't say anything to me. I was going to say, well, I did, and you said yes, but you must have been talking to someone else. But I go, that's too much, that's contrived, that's too much. I didn't never like that teacher. I don't know, she may still be alive, because back then, she was about, I want to say she was like 25, maybe even younger, maybe 22. She was young. And she was like, by today when I'm thinking about her, back then I didn't really, concentrate on that. But she was a haughty teacher. I finished my tea, I want more. Empty. Yeah, then I left that school and had to go make new friends, which I did. Anyway, it is a beautiful night out though. This way you want to have a bunch of, couple of friends and discuss things like, what is the universe held inside of? What is the universe expanding into? And then if one of them jumps up and says, hey, the universe is not expanding into anything, the universe is infinite, then you want to say, well, then that would mean that the universe did not have a beginning, because to be infinite, for me, you must have always existed. And that may be the case. That may be the case. They say Big Bang, but they don't really know. They don't really know. I mean, it could be a bang that happened in a part of the universe that expanded that part, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there was empty, like nothingness, or that just that little heat source, and then that exploding, everything became what you see now. It might be that the universe is a multiverse, and all of these universes are contained within something big, and there's multiple of those. But yeah, when I was a kid, I would say, oh man, what is this universe thing, and what's at the limit of it? What's after that? I mean, even if you say, okay, well, there's a certain point where it becomes just empty space. There's nothing. Even that, where did that empty volume come from? It's very strange. Even if it's empty space, where did that emptiness come from? And does that not have an ending either? That just continues on and on and on and on and on and on. I mean, infinity to me just seems like a cop-out. You say, some scientists, you say to them, what is the universe held inside of? And they go, oh, that's not nothing that I can explain to you easily, but I will tell you that the universe is inside of nothing, because as it goes on, it creates whatever it is it's going to be expanding into. That sounds like BS. I feel like once the mystery of all this is solved, we'll be like, oh, now I get it. Now I see what's going on here. Cops. They're going somewhere. They're going somewhere like Chips used to go. I actually saw Erik Estrada years ago. Yeah, I was stopped at a light. I think it was in Burbank. I'm like 94% sure it was in Burbank. And I was at the light, and all of a sudden I see cars coming from the other side, crossing over from me, and it was a white Rolls Royce, and it was Erik Estrada, Poncherello. Anyway, that's it for now. It's getting late, and I'm probably gonna have a little more tea. Too good, Too much on something you like is never enough. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.